This is Xiaomi's new Redmi Buds 6 Pro, which is of course a successor to last year's Buds 5 Pro. The 6 Pro looks almost the exact same as last year with basically the same color options, almost identical weight and dimensions, same battery size, and at around $70 to $80, the price also remains the same. But these now have improved drivers inside for supposedly better audio quality and promise enhanced noise cancelling compared to last year's Buds 5 Pro. There are a few really small refinements that Xiaomi has done here too that I'm a fan of. Unfortunately, there are also some persistent issues from last year that are still here, and they definitely need some immediate attention from Xiaomi. Plus, in just a year, the earbuds market has become even more saturated with some really great new options, especially at this price range. So unlike last year's Buds 5 Pro, I can't immediately recommend the Buds 6 Pro, but there is still a lot to like here, so before you decide to buy or not buy, let's go over all the details, starting with the very slight changes in design. The charging case is actually a tiny bit taller than last year's, but virtually no difference and just as easy to carry. The lavender purple color comes with this sort of soft touch material that does feel nicer on the skin compared to the glossy options, but I feel like it's even more slippery, so keep that in mind. The pairing button now sits flatter with the surface instead of being recessed, so it's a bit easier to click. The light strip is a tiny bit wider and it's got this awesome charging animation, which I love. Pressing the button once lets you quickly check your battery status too, which is nice and convenient. As for the buds themselves, they very slightly slimmed down the thickness towards the ear tips, which actually makes them a little bit more comfortable to wear for me. I do think this is a tiny bit of a trade-off because they can fall off a bit easier since it doesn't fill up the ears as much as the 5 Pro, but I think that trade-off is worth it since I can wear these for longer periods of time. That said, these are still just as awkward to put back into the case when not looking at them. You gotta line up the stems just like before, so when it's pitch black or you're not looking, you might occasionally miss the holes. When you put the earbuds on, there's this very subtle new sound effect. It sounds like 3 consecutive gentle knocks that sounds nice on the ears. You get the same effect when using the touch controls to pause or skip tracks. It is still a tapping touch interface though, so it's still a little tough to interact with compared to pinching or physical buttons, especially when you're on the move or exercising. What's also the same is a companion app. It's still very basic. Of course, you get your noise cancelling and transparency controls, options for adaptive or personalized noise cancellation, touch control settings, built-in plus custom EQ sets, and options to turn on and off things like in-ear detection and dual connection. If you have a Xiaomi phone, you have the option to use the built-in UI instead of the app. It looks a little more refined, but with the same exact features and functions. Either way, you don't get a view of all your paired devices, so dual connection is a bit more annoying to manage. Software support for Redmi Buds in general is very sparse, so you rarely or just occasionally get firmware updates. I do like how simple and easy it is to use, but it's missing a lot of options and customizations compared to competitors, and it just feels like Xiaomi isn't showing a ton of attention to detail here. Speaking of which, connectivity is one part that's been a persistent issue with the Redmi Buds Pro series. You get the same Bluetooth 5.3 spec with a 10-meter range, but I've ran into more connectivity issues with these than even last year's Buds 5 Pro. It's very sensitive to interference. I get disconnected or reconnected from my phone when just listening to music and podcasts and not doing anything else. This happens when riding the subway, the bus, or when just sitting at my desk. This happens even when using these with Xiaomi's own phones. After rebooting these earbuds, the issue is a bit better, but these buds struggle with interference more than a lot of other earbuds. There are stretches where these work perfectly fine, but about 10 to 15% of the time it's having issues. I'm sure this is more of a software issue than anything, so please Xiaomi update these ASAP, because it's getting a bit annoying. On the bright side, even with connection issues and not the best companion app, the dual connection surprisingly works really smoothly. Probably the best case of dual connection I've experienced so far. These do a really good job of knowing which device I'm using to listen to media, and it switches back and forth pretty seamlessly. Also, when things are connected, these sound pretty good. With LDAC and the new coaxial triple drivers, it's a good, fairly crispy experience, and I do hear a bit of improvement compared to the Buds 5 Pro, which already sounded pretty good. You get deeper, more detailed sound with better highs, and I'm noticing slightly better bass too. The volume is a little louder by default, so you don't have to increase the volume as much to get adequate audio. It is less noticeable for vocal focused audio and podcasts, but for acoustics, gaming, or songs with a lot of instruments and things going on, you'll notice it a little more. It is a tiny, minuscule difference for most people, but if you are a careful, close listener, it is a noticeable improvement as a whole. Similar story with the ANC. Xiaomi claims that the Buds 6 Pro can now get up to 55 decibels of ANC, which is a 40% increase in noise cancellation depth and a 14% increase in total ANC compared to the Buds 5 Pro, which weren't known to have the strongest ANC, so these were needed upgrades. When actually listening to them, it's a slight but noticeable improvement here too. They're a bit better at blocking out both the low and high frequency sounds compared to last year. But with that said, even at this sub $100 price, the ANC here is still a bit weak compared to the competition. For my own use cases like commuting and working at cafes, these are more than good enough, but at this point in 2025, the ANC here isn't as amazing anymore. We have the same 3 mic setup here without any changes changes. There's apparently a tiny bit better wind noise reduction, but I can't really tell. In general, these are wireless earbuds, so keep your expectations pretty low in terms of the microphone quality. Good enough for calls, but nothing impressive about them. So this is what the Redmi Buds 6 Pro sound like in a quiet indoor environment. Alright, so this is what the Redmi Buds 6 Pro sound like in a busy outdoor street environment with a bunch of things going on. In terms of battery, the battery capacity is actually exactly the same for the charging case and the earbuds as the Buds 5 Pro, but we do get slightly lower estimates, up to 36 hours of total use with the case and up to 9.5 hours for the buds themselves. I don't think the battery is any worse, it's just that their estimates are a little more accurate now. Because in my actual experience with ANC and LDAC on all the time, I get about 6 hours of playback for the buds and about 30 total hours with the charging case. That's basically the same as the Buds 5 Pro, which is a positive, because even though these might not have the best ANC, the battery runtime is among the best in this price category with these modes enabled. And with such small batteries, these charge back up really quickly. You just need a 5-minute charge to get up to 2 hours of playback, which is reasonable. You do need just about an hour to get a full charge for the charging case, but that's really no big deal with earbuds since the buds charge up fast from the charging case. So putting everything together, the Redmi Buds 6 Pro show a lot of small refinements that do slightly improve the overall experience, including the design, the audible feedback, audio quality and ANC, and these do have great battery life. But with a subpar companion app and some glaring persistent connectivity issues, these are in need of some critical firmware updates from Xiaomi that I'm not too hopeful that they'll deliver super quickly. Now, those issues don't happen often enough to be deal breakers, and I still think these are a good deal at just $70 to $80, but with so much competition at $100 or less these days with better ANC, I would definitely take a longer look around for other options in the market before picking these up. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Redmi Buds 6 Pro and what other earbuds you're looking at in this price range. As a disclaimer, this review unit was provided by Xiaomi, but this was not a paid or sponsored video, so everything I said here are my thoughts and my own only. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.